بر محمد وآل محمد صلوات. नहीं ठीक है, it's fine, ठीक है ना? أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ياسين والقرآن الحكيم إنك لمن المرسلين على صراط مستقيم تنزيل العزيز الرحيم لتنذر قوما ما أنذر آباؤهم فهم غافلون لقد حق القول على أكثرهم فهم لا يؤمنون إنا جعلنا في أعناقهم أغلالا فهي إلى الأذقان فهم مقمحون وجعلنا من بين أيديهم سدا ومن خلفهم سدا فأغشيناهم فهم لا يبصرون وسواء عليهم أأنذرتهم أم لم تنذرهم لا يؤمنون إنما تنذر من اتبع الذكر وخشي الرحمن بالغيب فبشره بمغفرة وأجر كريم إنا نحن نحيي الموتى ونكتب ما قدموا وآثارهم وكل شيء أحصيناه في إمام مبين واضرب لهم مثلا أصحاب القرية إذ جاءها المرسلون إذ أرسلنا إليهم 2 فكذبوهما فعززنا بثالث فقالوا إنا إليكم مرسلون قالوا ما أنتم إلا بشر مثلنا وما أنزل الرحمن من شيء إن أنتم إلا تكذبون قالوا ربنا يعلم إنا إليكم لمرسلون وما علينا إلا البلاغ المبين قالوا إنا تطيرنا بكم لئن لم تنتهوا لنرجمنكم وليمسنكم منا عذاب أليم قالوا طائركم معكم أئن ذكرتم بل أنتم قوم مسرفون وجاء من أقصى المدينة رجل يسعى قال يا قوم اتبعوا المرسلين اتبعوا من لا يسألكم أجرا وهم مهتدون وما لي لا أعبد الذي فطرني وإليه ترجعون أأتخذ من دونه آلهة إن يردني الرحمن بضر لا تغني عني شفاعتهم شيئا ولا ينقذون إني إذا لفي ضلال مبين إني آمنت بربكم فاسمعون قيل ادخل الجنة قال يا ليت قومي يعلمون بما غفر لي ربي وجعلني من المكرمين وما أنزلنا على قومه من بعده من جند من السماء وما كنا منزلين إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم خامدون يا حسرة على العباد ما يأتيهم من رسول إلا كانوا به يستهزئون ألم يروا كم أهلكنا قبلهم من القرون أنهم إليهم لا يرجعون وإن كل لما جميع لدينا محضرون وآية لهم والأرض الميتة أحيناها وأخرجنا منها حبا فمنه يأكلون وجعلنا فيها جنات من نخيل وأعناب وفجرنا فيها من العيون ليأكلوا من ثمره وما عملته أيديهم أفلا يشكرون سبحان الذي خلق الأزواج كلها مما تنبت الأرض ومن أنفسهم ومما لا يعلمون وآية لهم الليل نسلخ منه النهار فإذا هم مظلمون والشمس تجري لمستقر لها ذلك تقدير العزيز العليم والقمر قدرناه منازل حتى عاد كالعرجون القديم لا الشمس ينبغي لها أن تدرك القمر ولا الليل سابق النهار وكل في فلك يسبحون وآية لهم أنا حملنا ذريتهم في الفلك المشحون وخلقنا لهم من مثله ما يركبون وإن نشأ نغرقهم فلا صريخ لهم ولا هم ينقذون إلا رحمة منا ومتاعا إلى حين وإذا قيل لهم اتقوا ما بين أيديكم وما خلفكم لعلكم ترحمون وما تأتيهم من آية من آيات ربهم إلا كانوا عنها معرضين وإذا قيل لهم أنفقوا مما رزقكم الله قال الذين كفروا للذين آمنوا أنطعم من لو يشاء الله أطعمه إن أنتم إلا في ضلال مبين ويقولون متى هذا الوعد إن كنتم صادقين ما ينظرون إلا صيحة واحدة تأخذهم وهم يخصمون فلا يستطيعون توصية ولا إلى أهلهم يرجعون ونفخ في الصور فإذا هم من الأجداث إلى ربهم ينسلون قالوا يا ويلنا من بعثنا من مرقدنا هذا ما وعد الرحمن وصدق المرسلون إن كانت إلا صيحة واحدة فإذا هم جميع لدينا محضرون فاليوم لا تظلم نفس شيئا ولا تجزون إلا ما كنتم تعملون إن أصحاب الجنة اليوم في شغل فاكهون هم وأزواجهم في ظلال على الأرائك متكئون لهم فيها فاكهة ولهم ما يدعون سلام قولا من رب رحيم وامتازوا اليوم أيها المجرمون ألم أعهد إليكم يا بني آدم ألا تعبدوا الشيطان إنه لكم عدو مبين وأن اعبدوني هذا صراط مستقيم ولقد أضل منكم جبلا كثيرا أفلم تكونوا تعقلون هذه جهنم التي كنتم توعدون اصلوها اليوم بما كنتم تكفرون اليوم نختم على أفواههم وتكلمنا أيديهم وتشهد أرجلهم بما كانوا يكسبون ولو نشاء لطمسنا على أعينهم فاستبقوا الصراط فأنى يبصرون ولو نشاء لمسخناهم على مكانتهم فما استطاعوا مضيا ولا يرجعون ومن نعمره ننكسه في الخلق أفلا يعقلون وما علمناه الشعر وما ينبغي له إن هو إلا ذكر وقرآن مبين لينذر من كان حيا ويحق القول على الكافرين أولم يروا أنا خلقنا لهم مما عملت أيدينا أنعاما فهم لها مالكون وذللناها لهم فمنها ركوبهم ومنها يأكلون ولهم فيها منافع ومشارب أفلا يشكرون واتخذوا من دون الله آلهة لعلهم ينصرون لا يستطيعون نصرهم وهم لهم جند محضرون فلا يحزنك قولهم إنا نعلم ما يسرون وما يعلنون أولم يرى الإنسان أنا خلقناه من نطفة فإذا هو خصيم مبين وضرب لنا مثلا ونسي خلقه قال من يحيي العظام وهي رميم قل يحييها الذي أنشأها أول مرة وهو بكل خلق عليم الذي جعل لكم من الشجر الأخضر نارا فإذا أنتم منه توقدون أوليس الذي خلق السماوات والأرض بقادر على أن يخلق مثلهم بلى وهو الخلاق العليم إنما أمره إذا أراد شيئا أن يقول له كن فيكون فسبحان الذي بيده ملكوت كل شيء وإليه ترجعون صدق الله العلي العظيم.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ایک آواز بلند سلوات.
صل على محمد وآل
اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے اترے تھے اس زمین پر عرش بری کے تارے اے چاند کربلا کے اے چاند جلوہ گر ہے ہاشم کا چاند یہاں پر خیرات روشنی کی لے لیجیو یہاں سے اے چاند کربلا کے اے چاند اس زمین پر رکھیو ہمیشہ ٹھنڈک سوتے جو ہے یہاں پر زہرا کے ہیں یہ پیارے اے چاند کربلا تسلیم و سلسبیلو کوثر کے ہیں یہ مالک مارے گئے جو پیاسے اس نہر کے کنارے اے چاند کربلا حر اور حبیب جیسے جانباز اور حبا مارے گئے یہیں پر انصار شاہدین کے اے چاند دردیو ستم سے زینب کے دونوں پیارے مسلم کے دونوں بیٹے اے چاند کربلا کے پامال ہو رہی تھی قاسم کی لاش رن میں عباس اور سرور چنتے تھے ان کے ٹکڑے اے چاند کربلا کے بازو کٹے یہیں پر عباس با وفا کے اذن وغا نہ پایا پانی بھلا نہ پائے اے چاند کربلا اس سرزمیں پہ گزرا سرور پہ یہ بھی صدمہ سینے پہ کھائی برچھی ہم شکل مصطفیٰ نے اے چاند کربلا پانی پلانے لائے ایک محل کو سرور کیا ذبح حرملا نے تیرے ستم لگا کے گردن چھیدی پسر کی بازو چھیدا پدر کا دونوں تڑپ تڑپ کر اس جہاں سے گزرے اے چاند کربلا کے اس بن میں ایک بچی بابا کو ڈھونڈتی تھی بکھرے ہوئے پڑے تھے جب سر بریدہ لاشیں اے چاند کربلا پھر یہ بھی تو نے دیکھا وہ غم رسیدہ بچی سینے پہ سو رہی تھی بے سر پدر سے لپٹے اے چاند کربلا کے بازو بندھے یہیں پر پہلے پہل حرم کے اس سرزمین سے نکلے سجاد سر جھکائے اے چاند کربلا شہزادی جناحی مالک ہے کربلا کے کس کی مجال آئے جب تک نہ وہ بلائے اے چاند کربلا کے تو نے تو دیکھے ہوں گے اس سرزمین پہ اترے عرش بری کے تارے سلوات
صلوات محمد و آل محمد
اللہم صلی علی محمد
فدا اس پہ سلامی ہے جس کا نام حسین میرا موئی میرا آقا میرا امام میرا موئی میرا آقا میرا امام صبا کو بھیج کے روزے پہ کر رہا ہوں دعا کرے قبول الہی میرا سلام کرے قبول الہی میرا سلام جو کربلا کی زمیں پر ہوا تھا ان کا ورود تو پھر کے دیکھتے تھے قبر کا تو پھر کے دیکھتے تھے قبر کا مقام سنا نہائے کسی سنگ دل نے لاکھ کہا رسول کا ہوں نواسا ہے میرا رسول کا ہوں نواسا ہے میرا نام نہ پوچھو وقت وہ کیسا تھا جب مدینے سے چلے ہر ایک کا لیتے ہوئے سلام چلے ہر ایک کا لیتے ہوئے سلام پناہ لیتے تھے دشمن اجل کے دامن میں جو وار کرتے تھے لے کر علی کا نام جو وار کرتے تھے لے کر علی کا نام حسین فدا ہو اس پہ صلوات محمد و آل محمد مومنین ایک سورہ فاتحہ کی درخواست ہے جملہ مومنین و مومنات حاضرین مجلس کے مرحومین بانی مجلس کے مرحومین کی بار دیگر صلوات نام رسول رقوت ایمان ہو گیا نام رسول رقوت ایمان ہو گیا نام علی رسول کی پہچان ہو گیا نیزے پر سر حسین غریب دیار کا نیزے پر
سر حسین غریب الدیار کا انسانیت کی فتح کا اعلان ہو گیا نام رسول صلوات بر مسافروں کی مدینے میں جب رسید آئی کہ وحدہ گاہ میں فوج سعید آئی رسید آتے ہی صغرا کے گھر میں عید آئی تپے کہن گیا اور طاقت تپے کہن گیا اور طاقت جدید آئی ملال دور ہوا غیش کے خرینے سے بخار نبض سے غم دل سے دو بخار نبض سے غم دل سے درد سے غرض کے حضرت ام البنی کو بلوایا وہ آئی تو سرے تسلیم اٹھ کے نوڑایا وہ ہنس کے بولی کے کیوں یاد مجھ کو فرمایا کا مریض نے خوش ہو کے شے کا مریض نے خوش ہو کے شے کا ہمارے دل کو فقط نام بر نے چین دیا محمد حنفی کو خط محمد حنفی کو خط حسین یہ کہہ کے مادر عباس کو لیا ہمراہ محمد حنفی کے گھر آئی دختر شاہ وہ منتظر تھے لیے نام شیزی جا سلام کرتے ہی کہنے لگی سلام کرتے ہی کہنے لگے بنا لو اب سناؤ امام غریب کا نامہ پڑھو مریض کے آگے تبھی پڑھو مریض کے آگے تبھی کانا محمد حنفی نے کیا لفافہ کو دوا نکالا شق پر نور سید شہدا پڑا جو نام میں الخاب اپنا روکے کا حسین تیرے کرم پر حسین تیرے کرم پر میں لاکھوں جا سے کہاں میں تیرا برادر بجا برادر ہوں تو جانے ختم رسالت تو جانے ختم رسول ہے میں ابن حیدر عقیق کا لفظ جو الخواب میں میرے لکھا فقط یہ بندہ نوازی ہے یا امام خدا تیرا غلام ہے عباس میں غلام اس کا ہزار ہے قدم سے حضور ہزار ہے قدم سے حضور کے ہو لیا جو نام جدائی تو آنسو بہنے لگے سلام پڑھ کے علیہ السلام سلام پڑھ کے علیہ السلام کہا یہ فاطمہ سب بدیدہ تر لکھا ہے باپ نے تم کو کہ میری دختر دعا کے بعد ہو معلوم میری نور نظر کوئی گھڑی نہیں غافل تیرے کوئی گھڑی نہیں غافل تیرے طرف سے الگ ہے صدمہ ہے رنج و ملال ہے صغرا ادو کے نرغ میں ذرا کلا ادو کے نرغ میں ذرا کلال ہے غفور و فکر سے صغرا جو سخت گھبرائیں چچا کا اپنے قلمدان وہ اٹھا لائیں اور التماس کیا اے حسین کے بھائی مجھے تو ہے مجھے تو ہے نہ توانائی اور بیبی میری طرف سے وہ الخاب لکھو بابا کو کنیزیں لکھتی ہے جس طرح کنیزیں لکھتی ہے جس طرح اپنے آقا غریب پر وہ عالم نواز خلق خدا ملک سپاہی فلک بارگاہ شاہ خدا امام بے کسو مظلوم و بے دیار و تباہ خلیل کعبہ دی یوسف خلیل کعبہ دی یوسف اے رسول اجل رسیدوں کے عیسیٰ غریبوں کے والی حسین ابن علی منتظر حسین ابن علی منتظر رجب کی تیسری کو تم نے گھر کیا ویران تمہارے بعد ہوئی تین عیدیں بابا جان شب برات ہوئی دوسرے مہینے آیا بروج خمر نتی فاتحہ بروج خمر نتی فاتحہ کتاب و تمام آہا تڑپتے تڑپتے رات ہوئی ہمارے گھر میں نہیں دے ہمارے گھر میں نہیں دے شب برات ہوئی
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. May I request you all to please move a little forward so that people who are coming later may not have inconvenience. Thank you so much. Majlises at Al-Noor Center will inshallah continue till the 12th of Muharram inshallah, and all these majalis will be recited by Muslim brother Sheikh Hassan Roushandel, who has kindly accepted to recite all these majalises. The light scholar is here with us and he's going to be with us for the next 12 days. Inshallah, even if you have any questions about the majalis or any topic, after the majlis, he's going to lead the namaz as well, so you all can join him and ask your questions if you have any questions later on. I would now like to request Sheikh Hassan Roushandel to please come onto the mimbar to recite tonight's lecture. Bar Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, Bawazibulan Salawat.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Should I read the name, every name? Now or? Okay, I'll do it now. Before we start, I have a list of a number of marhumin. It is very important to remember the marhumin, your marhumin, and the marhumin that we have here. So I would like everyone to recite a Surah Fatiha for Brother Jabbar Ali marhum, Jabbar Ali Sharif, Sister Sakina B, marhum Ronak Ali Baig, marhum Shamim Ara, marhum Mir Arif Ali, marhum Mir Asif Ali, marhum or marhuma Mehrunisa, marhum Haidar Hussein, and marhuma Batula Begum. Please all together recite a Surah Fatiha after a salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. Ihdinas siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladzina an'amta alayhim ghayril maghdubi alayhim wa لَضَالِّينَ. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد والثناء لله رب العالمين، بارئ الخلائق أجمعين، باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين، ثم الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنام، حبيب إله العالمين، أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المنتجبين الهداة المهديين، ولا سيما على بقية الله في العالمين صاحب العصر والزمان، روحي وأرواح العالمين لتراب مقدمه الفداء. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Please accept my condolences. عظم الله أجورنا وأجوركم بمصابنا بالحسين عليه السلام, for the martyrdom anniversary of Imam al-Hussein, and for some of us, tonight is the first night of Muharram. For some of us, last night was the first night of Muharram. So I would like to extend my condolences, and we pray inshallah that Allah gives us the tawfiq. He has given us the tawfiq to attend these majalis, and we pray inshallah He also gives us the tawfiq to be able to learn from these majalis, implement the teachings of the Ahlul Bayt, be able to remember Allah, remember the Ahlul Bayt, hopefully, and leave these majalis, more important than anything, leave these majalis one step ahead in our spiritual life, in our closeness to God, inshallah. We pray for that with the loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Last night we started the series of lectures, and the topic of these lectures are reconnecting with God in the modern age. Last night we explained the importance of reconnecting to God, and how if it wasn't for the verses and the narrations that we have that depict to us the beauty of connecting to God and how it would look like if someone connects to God, if it wasn't for that, then we would have continued our lives normally and think that by praying and fasting and doing all the ritualistic aspect of religion, we have hit the target and there's nothing else to do. There was a time I was lecturing in one of the Middle Eastern countries, and a brother very honestly came up to me and said that we are praying and fasting and we have all our majalis here. There are times that I sit down and I think to myself, is there anything else we need to do? Alhamdulillah, we've done quite well and we've achieved what religion maybe wanted us to achieve. But then I say to myself, this can't be it. I mean, it's just rituals. We do it, but most of the times we don't feel anything. So he came up to me very sincerely asking and saying, is that it, or have I missed something? Oh, bless him. He actually came and asked, and it became a question for him. So if it wasn't for some of these verses and narrations that we talked about yesterday, and we explained the importance of reconnecting to God, if it wasn't for that, then we would have said, yes, it's fine. That's it. We've arrived at it. There's no signs. You cannot see any signs in this particular individual who is connected to God. You cannot see it here. In the hereafter, inshallah, when you go in Yawm al-Qiyamah, then you will be able to see that, mashallah, this person is being rewarded so much. So that would be a sign, perhaps, that this person did well in this world. But the issue is that when we look at the verses, when we look at the narrations, we see that there are signs for these people, not only in Akhirah, but also in this world. We mentioned the verse, الَّذِينَ قَالَ لَهُمُ النَّاسُ إِنَّ النَّاسَ قَدْ جَمَعُوا لَكُمْ. These are people who were trained by the Prophet. People came up to them and said, hey, it's in the battlefield. All the people, Nas, they have all gathered against you. They wanted to see what the reaction would be. But these, the army of the army of the Prophet, the Muslims, their response was حَسْبُنَ قَالُوا حَسْبُنَ اللَّهُ وَنِعْمَ الْوَكِيلُ. That came from deep down in their heart. We mentioned this yesterday, that when we look at the signs of these people, we realize that there was something about them, the characteristics. Their pursuit of religion in this world didn't only suffice with only acting according to the ritualistic approach of religion and the do's and don'ts, but it went beyond that. It changed their character. It made a different human being. It instilled a light, a Noor inside their heart. Okay, so if that is the case, then how do we get there and what do we need to discuss? So I mentioned last night that there are certain topics, inshallah, we will start discussing from tonight. These topics relate to religion and directly relate to connecting with God. We touch on every single one of these topics, inshallah, to be able to open it up and say a number of things. Number one, how these topics can be misunderstood, and as a result of their misunderstanding, not only a person would not get closer to God, but it can potentially hinder their progress. It can create a passive Muslim rather than an active Muslim in pursuit of proximity to God. We'll discuss that aspect. We will also discuss what the right approach towards it is. And from a practical point of view, we are here to reconnect to God and see how we can look at our religion practically and learn from it. I mentioned last night in a majalis we went after here, I said this is a very important thing because if you look at the reality is that God sent prophets and imams to us. We all agree. But have we ever looked at it from this point of view, that God sacrificed the best of His creation? The Prophet, we all know that was the best of His creation. He was the most beloved out of all of the other prophets and out of all of other human beings to God. But God doesn't say, okay, Prophet, I love you so much, so He doesn't take him away from people safe from the harms and tortures that people bring to him. But He says, oh Prophet, I love you so much, but I have a mission for you. And if you fail in this mission, and if you don't take it seriously, I will wipe off all of your good deeds completely. Very serious, very harsh. So God, what is more important to you than your Prophet, the one you love the most? What's more important to me is delivering the message to the people who supposedly are the worst of people. So he spends the best of his creation for what is known to be the worst of his creation. He doesn't protect them, he actually allows them to fall into martyrdom, to be killed. But why? Because there is a message in it. When Imam Hussein alayhi salam sacrifices his own life, well, not only that, sacrifices his life and his family's life for the sake of something which is greater, something which God himself considered to be greater, and therefore sacrificed his prophet, the family of his prophet, for that sake. We are gathering here not only to remember Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but it's very important for us to ask the question, God, what was it that you were trying to deliver to us? That for the sake of that, you sacrificed the best of your creation. You gave everything in order for that thing, for that message to be preserved. So we want to talk a little about that. And that, in general terms, is Islam. But what is Islam? Everyone talks about Islam. Everyone has a version of Islam, right? Even within the school of Ahlul Bayt, there is so much differences of opinion as to, okay, what is Islam in detail? But what shouldn't be neglected is that there are certain themes in Islam that are not disputed. When it comes to insan getting closer to God, this is not a matter of dispute. When it comes to insan developing characteristics which makes him or her closer to God, which makes them live a life of purpose, live a life of meaning, live a life which they start experiencing spiritual proximity to God, not just by certain rituals that sometimes we don't feel anything, no, but you start developing certain masteries, you become more God-alike, and that is not disputed, and that is what the prophets have been sent for. The famous narration, some say it's a narration, some say it's just a saying, but the gist of it that you can take, it's something, in line with our religious teachings, that I was sent so that I can perfect you can say complete the perfection of akhlaq, basically for people to develop the masteries of akhlaq, etc. So we understand the importance of this, and why is it very important for us to reconnect to God? Not just because that's the purpose of creation, but also when we distance ourselves from the purpose of creation, we start seeing very unpleasant things, whether within a human being or within society. Within human beings, we are experiencing so much meaninglessness, nihilism, we're experiencing so much doubt, confusion, mental health issues, much of which can be caused due to our lack of attention to some of these concepts that I'm going to discuss. I am not here to say, okay, whoever has mental health issues has weak iman. That's not my claim, and I'm not someone who can say that. But I do like to present an approach that says that some of these mental health issues, some of these crises that we are going through can potentially be either solved or helped, at least to a very high degree, by some of these concepts that we are talking about. Our religion is not completely separate from our day-to-day life, and we're going to discuss that. We said that in the first night, inshallah, we will discuss the topic of tawakkul, relying on God. A very important topic, often misunderstood, and as a result of that has a negative impact rather than it's being used and utilized in order for a human being to live a life which is much more empowered than a person who doesn't have the concept of tawakkul. Please recite the salawat. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم. First, I'm going to explain the issue and problem we are facing today. Then I will go into two stories from the Quran, very beautifully depicts to us how tawakkul is done and how a person can grow into a position where they can understand tawakkul and learn from it. We'll explain that inshallah. But initially, let's talk about the problem. What is the problem? Often we see people use the word tawakkul as a replacement for them getting up and doing work. So tawakkul becomes tantamount to laziness. You see a person not working, not doing much for the family, and you go to them and you say, "What's up? Why are you not working? Why are you not providing? Why are you not getting up from bed and going out there and finding your mission, finding your purpose in life? What's going on?" And you see them sit back, look at you. Farsi we say a look of an aqil, how an aqil looks at an ignorant person. They give you that type of a look and they say, "Are you serious? Have tawakkul on God. What is this? You know, you're working for the dunya so much. You wake up in the morning, you come back at night. Have some tawakkul on Allah. Let Allah do the rest, you know." So the wrong understanding of tawakkul is when people, instead of thinking about why they are lazy and getting back to work, getting up, finding purpose, finding meaning in life, they say, look, this is how they understand it. I am going to sit down and I have a God that if I do 50% of the work, my God is going to do the rest of the 50%. I'll leave the 50% to him. So the person who doesn't have God, if they want to reach a destination, what do they need to do? They need to put in 100% of hard work, but I have something called God. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to put 50% and I'm going to leave the 50% to God for him to take care of the rest. So this becomes a justification of their laziness. When people see this, then they say, okay, those people who are driven, those people who want something in life, they want to reach an aim, they have an objective, they're not lazy. They see these people and they say, okay, we don't want your tawakkul. What is this? If I'm going to do tawakkul and the result of my tawakkul is that I'm going to sit back, relax, and not do the work, then I don't want your version of tawakkul, just leave me alone. But the issue with this is, I wish this was a solution, but it's not. Because then these people suddenly distance themselves from religion, from this notion of religion, and they want to now take everything on board themselves. They embark on a journey in life, thinking that I am me and I need to do everything for myself. But sooner or later, some of them realize that it's not easy to do that. Thinking that there's nothing out there that they can rely on. Thinking that with the uncertainties that come to life, if I am the one who only protects, the only protector of my wealth and my job and my career, my family, if I am the one who has to obsess with protecting every single person that I love, every single piece of material that I have, every device, it's going to be very burdensome. How is that possible? You see, for example, COVID hits, that's it. The uncertainty really impacts people. I can't take care of my own affairs on my own. So you realize that no, I do need something. I do need a notion of God I do need a version of God that I can sometimes rely on. And I can say, أُفَوِّضُ أَمْرِي إِلَى اللَّهِ, I leave this to you, God. Sometimes I need to say, تَوَكَّلْتُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. We'll explain the difference later. But you feel like you develop this need. So I don't want the version that instills laziness in me, but I also don't want to live a life which I don't have anything to do with God. This is the God of the philosophers known. God of the philosophers is that we prove He exists, okay? He's the creator of everything, but then do I ask Him for a favor? Not really. You can't do that. Philosophy explains to you that He exists, but it doesn't say that you can ask Him for a favor and then He changes everything for the sake of you. Or that realm becomes very difficult in philosophy, but the God of religion is different. The God of religion trains a human being to get to a point where they can let go of anything they have in life. They don't feel any form of attachment. Imam Ali alayhi salam in Munajat Sha'baniyah, Allahumma salli. This is his dua to God. He says, Ilahi habli kamal al-inqita'i ilayk. Oh God, grant me a complete level of detachment towards you. Meaning that whatever exists in this world, anything that drags my attention to a degree that it distracts me, take that away from me. I have it, but it doesn't distract me anymore. I lose a child, I lose my family. All of these things happen. The world shakes, but the heart of a mu'min is like a mountain. It doesn't shake. That's what he asks God. That means it's possible for someone to reach there. Maybe it takes many years. I'm not saying it's an overnight thing. But let's accept that the concept exists, that you may be able to reach there. So when we are familiar with this notion, we say, okay, we want that. What's the real version? What's the right, correct version of tawakkul that we can actually rely on and we can use, implement in our life actively and not passively? We're going to explain that inshallah. Please recite the salawat. Last night I mentioned that there are some people who try to say, sometimes I feel it's out of sincerity as well, they try to say that even the prophets went through depression. So they try to normalize this and say, hey, it's fine. Even our prophet was depressed. Even Prophet Yaqub was depressed. And I said last night that to me this doesn't seem correct, and I'm going to explain why. And here, I'm going to explain to you a very beautiful story. The story of Prophet Yusuf and Prophet Yaqub. But there is a section in the story that is often neglected, which we're going to explain tonight, inshallah. I will explain the story. I will explain the relationship between then the prophets not experiencing depression and this story and how we can use this. And overall, how God taught Yaqub alayhi salam the skill of tawakkul, the tool of tawakkul. The prophets had different levels. The Quran says, تِلْكَ الرُّسُلُ فَضَّلْنَا بَعْضَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. The prophets, some of them were higher in their level than the others. And they all went through experiences in life in order to learn things. One of the experiences that Yaqub went through is the experience that taught him tawakkul. What is this experience? Initially, when the brothers of Yusuf came to Yaqub and they said to him, "O father, send our brother, and we want to take him, we'll do horse riding, and we'll protect him, and don't worry over him." Obviously, they had something in mind, they had a plan. Prophet Yaqub made his first mistake. In this moment, he suddenly expressed his fear. A fear which is very normal and natural. He says, قَالَ إِنِّي لَيَحْزُنُنِي أَن تَذْهَبُوا بِهِ. First and foremost, I become mahzoon. I feel sorrowful. I feel that I would suffer. لَيَحْزُنُنِي أَن تَذْهَبُوا بِهِ, if you take him. وَأَخَافُ أَن يَأْكُلَهُ الذِّئْبُ. And I fear that a wolf would eat him. وَأَنْتُمْ عَنْهُ غَافِلُونَ. And you were basically neglecting him, and a wolf comes and eats him. Mistake number one. How do we know this is a mistake? Because somewhere else in the Quran, we mentioned the verse last night, that God depicts for us what are the awliya like. The verse is those who are very close, like this with God. أَلَا إِنَّ أَوْلِيَاءَ اللَّهِ لَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. This is when they reach the destination. Not many people reach destination. Most of our prophets didn't reach the destination or hadn't reached the destination in their life. They had to go through a lot of trials and errors in order to get there. Okay. So one verse depicts the destination. لا خوف عليهم لا هم يحزنون. They don't have fear. They don't have huzn. And in this verse, it says Yaqub wasn't there yet. He says يحزنني أخاف. Okay. But God is Halim. He's patient. He takes him on a journey until he realizes his mistake. So when he expressed it, the same thing happened. They came back and they said, a wolf took him. So what he expressed regarding his fear became real for him. It wasn't the reality, but it became a reality for him. But Yaqub, being Yaqub, is a good student of the universe. He learns from his mistakes. He realizes. The same story happened. Now this is the part that is often not mentioned. The same thing happened when the brothers went to Egypt. Yusuf said, bring your younger brother with you, right? So they came back to the father, the exact same thing. Send our younger brother. We will take him, we will protect him. What does Yaqub say here? Yaqub, if he hadn't learnt the teaching, he would have repeated the same thing, even in a worse manner. He would say, what? I'm definitely not going to send him with you, obviously, right? But first thing first, he remembers. He says, do I send him with you the same way I sent his brother? Really? Is that how I'm going to trust you this time? But he didn't say, I'm not going to send him anymore. What was the line he uses here? He reminds them, but implicitly he says, I've learnt my lesson. قال هل آمنكم عليه إلا كما آمنتكم على أخيه من قبل. He said, should I not trust you with him just as I trusted you with his brother before? Is this what you're asking? But his response was, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. You see the switch. Initially, أَخَافُ يَحْزُنُنِي. But now I've learnt my lesson. Who do I rely on? I rely on God. فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. Okay, there are some people who say, yes, but he sent his first son, good, but he got depressed, and then he sent his second son, and then they came back to him and they said, hey, he basically kept your second son. So what worse could have happened? But he still didn't lose hope. And this is where he differs with some of us, because he, at the end of the day, is a role model. And that's why he is a role model. We can't say he lost hope, he completely, is miserable, hopeless being. No. After the first son was lost, he sent the second one. فَاللَّهُ خَيْرٌ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. The second one didn't come back. Did he lose hope? No. In the next few verses, he says to his sons, without losing hope, he's lost 2 sons now. He says, يَا بَنِيَّ اذْهَبُوا فَتَحَسَّسُوا مِنْ يُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ. Go, not only go look for Binyamin, the brother of Yusuf, but go look for Yusuf as well after so many years. He hasn't lost hope. How did he not lose hope? تَحَسَّسُوا مِنْ يُوسُفَ وَأَخِيهِ وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ. He's teaching his children, not the other way round. He didn't become depressed, hopeless, sit down, miserable. After all of that, he's teaching his sons and he says, look, go and وَلَا تَيْأَسُوا مِنْ رَوْحِ اللَّهِ, because that is the worst thing you can do. In the calamities, the worst thing is for you to become hopeless. Indeed, and he says, and do not despair of Allah's mercy. Indeed, no one despairs of Allah's mercy except the faithless lot. So to those people who ignorantly say, Yaqub lost faith, lost hope, they are unknowingly saying that Yaqub is among the faithless lot, which he here very clearly says that I am not. And you shouldn't be as well. That's what he's trying to teach us. He says in the worst moments of your life, have tawakkul on Allah. Rely on Him and let Him take care of the affairs. But what does that mean? We will have to explain now. But this story shows us that how someone can be in the worst case scenario, but he learnt from his mistake. The mistake was that he expressed his fear. We all have fear, but living by fear is not what is recommended. And Imam Ali alayhi salam in a narration very clearly says, the one who learns about tawakkul, one of the things that gives to him is that he loses fear. What is tawakkul? Sorry, Imam Rida alayhi salam. Allahumma salli. Someone goes to Imam Rida alayhi salam and says, what is the definition of tawakkul? What is the limit of tawakkul? And it's narrated that the Imam responded, tawakkul is that which when you rely on God, that takes away the fear from your heart. So today when we are talking about uncertainties, when we are talking about difficulties in life and fear that is instilled in our heart, when the Quran talks about that, Quran says that you have to go through a journey, and that journey should teach you that never express your fears. Don't give them energy. This is what people are talking today about mindfulness. Those people who are into these stuff, they say this very clearly, but we have it in our Quran, in our narrations, that yes, we all have fear, but don't focus on your fear. Try to distract yourself from the fear that you have. And not only that, but face it. Yaqub had fear. Okay? He said, Akhafu. The second time, however, he learnt that if that is a fear that he has to confront it. He has to face it. He didn't do it once, and he saw what happened. He confronts it and he says, I rely on God, and I am not going to lose hope. This is the effect of tawakkul, if we do it correctly. Now, what is the right version of tawakkul. I'll explain one other story I will mention of Maryam alayhi salam. Then I'll explain what the meaning of tawakkul actually is. Please recite the salawat. When it comes to the story of Sayyidah Maryam salamullahi alayha, you see, it's very much similar. God says to Maryam, وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَى, we revealed to Moses' mother. Sorry, not the story of Maryam, the story of the mother of Musa. وَأَوْحَيْنَا إِلَىٰ أُمِّ مُوسَى, we revealed to the mother of Musa, أَنْ أَرْضِعِيهِ, we said, nurse him. فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِيهِ فِي الْيَمِّ وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. Very similar. The lesson that God gives us is لا تخافي لا تحزني لا خوف عليهم لا هم يحزنون. In another night, inshallah, I will go deeper into the concept of khawf and huzn and happiness and joy, inshallah, to see what is the Quranic and religious perspective on those. But here, just in brackets, we can see that it says, لا تخافي ولا تحزني. Khawf and huzn, don't let it come into your heart. That is your responsibility. You need to do it actively. It comes itself, but you are in charge of whether you feed it or you learn how to avoid it and avert it. These require practical lessons, which we are going to, inshallah, get to. Please recite the salawat. In order for someone to be able to do tawakkul, it requires them to have a level of understanding of God. When you look at the du'as of the Ahlul Bayt, usually they start with introducing God in a form of a supplication and praise. Du'a Arafah started with that. Du'a Arafah started with the line, Alhamdulillahi alladhi laysa liqada'ihi dafi' wala li'ata'ihi mani'. Praise be to Allah that if He ordains something, no one can stand in front of it. No one can change it. Alhamdulillah alladhi laysa li'ata'ihi mani'. If He is to give you something, there is no one who can prevent Him from doing so. These are things that we are reminded of constantly, because it's something that if we accept by our aql, okay, we sit down, the first step is for us to sit down and see, okay, do I accept this or not? Some of us may say, well, I haven't reached that level. Okay, that's the level of aql, rationale. You sit down, you look at arguments, you try to find different perspectives that can convince you that, number one, these are the prerequisites of tawakkul. Number one, that God knows your needs. This is something you need to remind yourself, you need to believe, accept, and remind yourself constantly that He knows of your needs. He's not ignorant of it. That's number one. The second one is that God has the power to give you what you want. If we were talking about a God which knew but didn't have the power, then we're like, okay, then what are you doing here? Why are you even asking Him? Why are you relying on Him? But He also has the power. This is the second thing we need to work on. We look at the arguments. We try to see traces of that in our life. We need to connect to these concepts. So number one, God knows your needs. Number two, God has the power to give you what you want. Number three, God is not stingy. All of these you see repetitively mentioned in the munajat and the du'as that the Ahlul Bayt have given us. Why? Because you need to remind yourself of it. The Quran repeats this multiple times. Wallahu ghaniyyun hamid. But why? Some people ask, why does the Quran have so many repetitions? Okay, did God not have much to say, so he had to repeat himself? Well, one of the answers is no, it's not. That's not the case. The case is that you forget. The reality of an insan is that they forget. Some say the meaning, the root letters of insan comes from nasiya, meaning someone who forgets. So it is for us to be reminded, not for God, right? So in the munajat and the du'as, we see multiple times this is mentioned. You shouldn't think that if God is to give you everything that exists on earth, nothing will decrease from the khaza'in that he has. Not a single bit. Not even that. Beautifully in one munajat it says, وَلَا تَزِيدُهُ كَثْرَةُ الْعَطَاءِ إِلَّا جُودًا وَكَرَمًا. There's nothing preventing God from giving you, but if he even gives you, it does not decrease anything from him, but it will increase in his generosity. So he will give. Remind that all the time to yourself. So he's not stingy. And number 4, God is merciful to his creation. He does have that level of mercy. He's powerful, he can do it, he knows your need, he's not stingy, and he has mercy. So when you remind yourself of these things, this is the rational side. If you're convinced there, then you need to convince your heart. Okay? That is where this particular exercise I'm going to say is going to be very helpful, inshallah. We all accept all of these 4 premises. We agree, God is not stingy and all of that. But often there is a fight and conflict between the aql and the heart. This is what Sayyid Khomeini says in his 40 hadith book. He says, the aql says, yes, rely on God. Everything is in his hands. But then the heart says, no, I still haven't felt that. I still haven't seen that. I'll just go with what I know. And that is, let me just go and convince, my boss, let me go and make my mom and dad happy to give me something. And my rizq comes from here. And I need to take care of my affairs. Otherwise, nothing is going to help me. No one is going to help me. You start obsessing with all your fears and insecurities that you have. Your aql says, no, but God can take care of it for you. God can help you with it. But your heart says, no, I haven't seen that yet. I'll go with what I know. He says this exists. Our duty, our mission is to build a bridge between the two. And start letting the aql dictate and influence the experience of the heart. How do we do that? One very simple way. Okay? Try this. When you are thinking about tawakkul, this is the meaning of tawakkul. One meaning of it is you set a destination, you set something that you want. Okay? And you rely on God for helping you reach there. You're going to do the work yourself, but you ask him to help you in the process for you to get there. The concept of tawakkul sometimes is misunderstood and confused with tafweed al-amr. Tafweed al-amr means, look, I don't say what I want, okay? I leave God to decide whatever he wants for me. That's a very high level that some of the urafa have reached. They asked one arif, they said, what do you want? He said, Uridu an la urid. I want to not want. That's what I want. But if we start from that, everything's going to get messed up because we haven't reached there yet. Who can say that? A person can say that who has accepted the list of 4 using their aql, and their heart is now also in line. I know that God can give if He wants, and if I want, I can get from Him. Then I decide, rather than asking Him for something, I'll leave Him, I'll let Him decide, leave it to Him. That is a higher level. But for us, some of us, we need to build a bridge and basically fill in the gap between the aql and the heart. And how do we do that? By setting certain goals and relying on God not to do the act, but to help you in the process to progress towards it. So you say something which in your mind is not very far-fetched. You're going somewhere tonight. Instead of just going there and not thinking about God, say, Ya Allah, I'm going to this other majlis now. Please, I ask you and I rely on you, make it a very good experience for me. Make me have a very special experience, a spiritual enlightenment tonight. Ask Him for things that you know is not very far-fetched. Start doing that regularly in your life. You start building the connection between knowing in your aql, in your mind, that God can give and He's not stingy and all of that, I know. But you start building the connection to your heart that you will start seeing it. Ask Him for favors. But favors that your mind doesn't suddenly say, no, that's impossible for Him to give. Because the moment your heart battles with you, then it's a lost game. Do something, try to trick it, something that it's fine with. Go with that step by step, connect with these concepts and rely on Him. Do tawakkul and say, look, I remind myself every time that God I know, and this is the beauty of our religion. I'm going to wrap it up now in a few minutes. This is the beauty that our Imams have taught us, have given us recipes in order to be able to build this bridge. What is the recipe? Is that you have to remind yourself constantly of those things in order for your tawakkul to work. If there is anything hindering you, if there's anything stopping you from the tawakkul working, is you and your perception and your focus. So, you pray 5 times a day. What do you say in this prayer? In every prayer, few times you say, Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. I'm reminding myself that only you I worship and only you I ask for help. Only you I rely on. These can be done consciously and they can be done ritually, repetitively, without any form of focus. If you do it that way, then you wouldn't see any impact in your life. You've been doing it for many years perhaps, and you may not have seen much of a influence it's having on your life. But when you look at it from this point of view, every single part of salat can contribute towards your tawakkul on Allah, towards reaching a level where you say, oh Allah, I want these in my life and I leave it to you. I'm going, I'm moving, I'm doing my side. But whatever happens to me, I rely on you and I trust that it's in my favor, and I don't obsess with the fear and the stress that comes to me. I let go. I'm relaxed. I'm calm. I'm heading forward. I'm doing my duty, my responsibility, and the rest is in your hands. And I'm sure that you will give me good. This needs to happen actively, and you need to do it repetitively. Our Imams have taught us dhikr. The moment fear comes inside your heart, don't let it take over. Use adhkar. The moment you feel fear, don't feed into it. Immediately say, Hasbi Allah, la ilaha illahu, alayhi tawakkaltu, wa huwa rabbul arshil azim. Remind yourself multiple times. Take away that thought. Push it away. Hasbi Allah, God suffices me. La ilaha illahu. There is no Lord, there is no God, ilah, other than Him. عَلَيْهِ تَوَكَّلْتُ. Only on Him I rely. وَهُوَ رَبُّ الْعَرْشِ الْعَظِيمِ. And He is the Rabb, the nurturer, the Lord of the great throne. These are practical lessons. If you leave this majlis, inshallah, tonight and implement some of these things, you will see the difference. Because the Ahlul Bayt have come, they've spared their lives for us to be able to learn these things. And inshallah, we pray to Allah that Allah increases in our knowledge and at the same time gives us the tawfiq to implement and act upon those knowledge, inshallah, with a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Tonight, inshallah, we are going to remember Muslim ibn Aqil alayhi salam. Who was Muslim ibn Aqil? Muslim ibn Aqil was the first commander of Imam Hussein who reached Shahada. Once the Imam received letters saying, "We are ready to come and lead us," the people said to the Imam, "We are ready. Come. Everything is provided. And come and lead us." What the Imam did is that he sent Muslim to see how loyal these people are. If you show your loyalty to Muslim, then I will come. Muslim enters Kufa and sees that the people are loyal. 18,000 people. They all came. They pledged allegiance and they said, "We are with you. When is the son of Fatima coming?" So Muslim ibn Aqil writes a letter to Imam Hussein. "Ya ibn Rasulullah, come to Kufa." Once Ibn Ziyad came, people became doubtful and they began to betray Muslim ibn Aqil. The last prayer he performed in Kufa, people were behind him. But when he finished, he saw no one was left behind him. He remembers the loneliness of Amir al-Mu'mineen in Kufa. Muslim begins to move door to door in the streets of Kufa. He takes a break outside the door. A lady comes out saying, "This city is not safe. What are you doing?" She didn't recognize him. He said, "I am ghareeb. I have been left alone. Do you know who I am? I am the representative of Imam al-Hussein." Now she is very shocked. She takes him inside to protect him. Later, the son of the lady comes in. He is someone who wants money from Ibn Ziyad. He finds Muslim. He calls the guards to arrest him. He betrays him. They come and they corner Muslim ibn Aqil in his house. He comes out and fights them. He fights until he is covered in cuts and injuries. They take him to Ibn Ziyad. He asks for water. You know, it's very interesting that when he asks for water, he eventually doesn't manage to drink water. It's as if whoever is to be martyred in this path, not only they are to be martyred, but they're also to be martyred thirsty. But it seems that all the shuhada of Karbala were meant to die while their mouth were dry. They take Muslim to the rooftop of Dar al-Imara. Perhaps Muslim looks towards Mecca. What do you think he's thinking about? He says, "Oh Aba Abdullah, I wish I had a way to tell you not to come to Kufa. Don't come, Ya Aba Abdullah. These people have betrayed you. Don't come to Kufa. The people are sharpening their swords, not to defend you, but now to fight you. Ya Aba Abdullah, don't come to Kufa. The people, they're preparing their horses to fight you. Don't come to Kufa, Ya Ibn Rasulullah. Why shouldn't he come to Kufa? Don't come to Kufa. Harmala is preparing his arrows for your Ali Asghar. Now what happened to a Muslim in Dar al-Imara? The Maqtal says, وَجَعَلَ يُقَاتِلُ حَتَّى أُثْخِنَ بِالْجَرَاحِ. He fought them until he was injured. وَضَعُفَ عَنِ الْقِتَالِ. And he became weak from fighting. وَتَكَاثَرُوا عَلَيْهِ فَجَعَلُوا يَرْمُونَهُ بِالنَّبْلِ وَالْحِجَارَةِ. They all gathered around him and they started stoning him they started throwing stones at him. فَقَالَ مُسْلِمٌ وَيْلَكُمْ ما لكم ترمونني بالحجارة كما ترمى الكفار. Muslim says to them, what's happened to you? Woe upon you. You are stoning me the same way you used to stone the kuffar. You're stoning me the same way you stoned the kuffar. وَأَنَا مِنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِ أَنْبِيَاءِ الْأَبْرَارِ. While I am from the family of the Anbiya. وَيْلَكُمْ أَمَا تَرَعُونَ حَقَّ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَآلِهِ وَذُرِّيَّتِهِ. Woe upon you. Woe upon you. You are not fulfilling the right of the Rasulullah and his family. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل.
I'll say.
حسینم و حسینم و حسینا حسینم و حسینم حسینم و حسینم و حسینا حسینم و حسین 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 علی حسین 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 شہید کربلا حسین شہید کربلا حسین غریب نینوا حسین غریب نینوا حسین اسیر اشقیاء حسین اسیر اشقیاء حسین عباس علم دارم چه شد حسین عباس علم دارم چه شد اصغر شیرخوارم چه شد حسین 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 وحسرت حسینہ وحسرت حسینہ صد الوداع حسینہ صد الوداع حسینہ زینب بصیر ادا زینب بصیر ادا شد به پدر سکینہ شد به پدر سکینہ وحسرت حسینہ وحسرت حسینہ حسین 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 یا امام
إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما سبحان الله والحمد لله ولا إله إلا الله والله أكبر ولله الحمد الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد